Alright, so hey guys, welcome back to another video. I hope you guys are all doing well. Today we are going to be taking a look at two systems that you can build for yourself, one at the $650 price range and one at the $1,000 price range. And these two systems are going to be focused around the brand new APUs that AMD has came out with. And those are going to be respectively the Ryzen 5 5600G and the Ryzen 7 5700G. Now the 5700G has 8 cores and 16 threads with an integrated Vega GPU, along with the 5600G, which has 6 cores and 12 threads, along with its also integrated Vega GPU. Now the nice thing with these systems is that their graphics horsepower is actually really good compared to some of the discrete options that we have out there on the market, notably things like the GT 1030 and like the 1050 or like the 1050 Ti. Like these particular APUs will actually compete with those graphics cards when it comes to their overall horsepower. And I think this comes at a great time for a lot of people. A lot of people are going to be starting up school right now, and graphics cards are still super expensive, especially if you don't get lucky to be able to get one in like a raffle or anything like that. So with these actually having some really good availability, especially on here on Amazon, which is one of those places where they get scooped up like crazy, we still have some pretty good availability. Now the 5600G is a bit more expensive than it is for retail, but if we look at the 5700G, it is actually right at its retail pricing, so it's pretty good when it comes to overall value and availability. So I think most people are going to have a pretty easy time getting a hand on one of these processors. Now in today's focus of the builds that we're going to be showing you, I'm going to be showing you everything and talking about the things that you should be considering when doing a build with one of these things. I'll be giving kind of some examples of what you guys should be looking for in the motherboard, the storage and stuff like that, especially because these APUs, you kind of want to make a different sort of build around them compared to just going with a normal just like basic system that you would kind of build when the graphics card market wasn't completely screwed up. But yeah, we're gonna be kind of going over that today. But before we do, make sure that if you do end up enjoying, to leave a like on the video, and if you guys want to see more content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Alright, so first off, I want to show you guys a little bit of the performance benchmarks. Now this particular video is brought to us by PC Benchmarks. If you guys want to go check this particular video out, it will be linked down in the description. But if you guys can kind of see here, so we have the 5600G here on the left side, and then over here on the right we have a 10100F with a GT 1030. And now we have the different kind of quality settings here, but as you can see, the 5600G is pretty good at destroying the GT 1030, especially at these eSport games, right? At 1080p low, it is kind of going off the wall here. It's close to doubling the FPS of the GT 1030. And as we kind of get into different games here, we can kind of see you're still not getting great performance out of it, especially when we're doing things like 1080p medium. Again, games that are really graphics intensive aren't going to perform great, but games that like we kind of saw here with CSGO are going to perform pretty well. But then we have games like Rainbow Six Siege, I believe is what this is. So yeah, even on the GT 1030, this thing pretty much isn't even playable. But over here on the 5600G, this game is actually more than playable. If you're averaging 72 FPS, that's actually a pretty good experience when you're hitting 38 FPS over here on that card. So especially on medium, so when you start lowering down those resolution settings, you're getting a pretty playable experience in most esport games. So when you are looking at buying a system with the 5600G in it, you don't necessarily need to buy an aftermarket cooler like I kind of have listed here. I put in the Hyper 212 just because it's kind of a generic cooler that I throw in with builds every now and then if people kind of want an aftermarket cooler. But as of right now, it's not something that I prioritize a whole lot. Especially when you're having these kind of lower TDP parts like the Ryzen 5 series. The integrated stock cooler that you're going to be getting with the CPU should be more than fine to handle this thing in most tasks. But the one thing that you don't really want to skip out on is a good motherboard, and this is the MSI B550M Pro VHD. Now, in terms of overall quality, this is probably going to be the best bang for buck motherboard you're going to get out here on the market. For $85, this thing has pretty much all the features that you would want on a modern day motherboard. So you're getting some pretty okay heat sinks, some pretty okay power delivery. It's, again, nothing great, but I wouldn't expect many people to be, doing some hardcore overclocking on their CPUs, especially these APUs. I really don't think you're going to see a huge performance benefit from overclocking these things super hard. But yeah, one of the cool things that this thing also has is a flash BIOS button. So if the BIOS on this particular motherboard isn't up to date to support these CPUs, you technically don't even need to go back and buy one. You can just get the USB stick needed to flash the BIOS and press the button, and it should work all by itself. Another cool thing is it comes with integrated Wi-Fi. I don't know if this is Bluetooth as well, but again, having Wi-Fi is a good bonus for a lot of other people. You have a great amount of ports. You also have a USB-C front panel connector, which is also something that we usually don't see on these kind of lower end motherboards. Now, I do not believe, oh no, you actually do. So you also have a 90-degree angle USB 3.0 header, which is actually great for cable management. The thing sticking up usually a kind of pain in the ass to kind of bend the cord around. But overall, I think it's a great board for most people, especially if you're just starting out building a PC. This should be a great board for anybody, especially in the long term as well. Now, when it comes to memory, I really don't care too much about the brand. I really just care about the specs of it and the price. And I know these Crucial Basilicks are actually pretty decent RAM sticks, so that's kind of another reason I kind of went towards them. But the main reason I really want this pack is because of the overall RAM speeds and the cache latency. So the cache latency here is 16, which is pretty much the highest latency we'd want on a 3600 megahertz kit. So the main thing with just getting a higher frequency memory kit, the main reason why we want to get one of these is just because this particular APU, or just APUs in general, are usually going to be a little bit bandwidth starved when it comes to memory. And the higher you can get that memory clock speed, the more and more that GPU is going to be able to stream those assets back and forth. So a lot of you guys know when you have a dedicated GPU, so something like a it's like an RTX 3060, right? It has its own set of memory, which is usually super fast compared to just normal system memory. And because this is an APU, it has to run off of system memory no matter what. So the faster you can get your system memory, which is also known as the RAM, usually the better the APU is going to perform in general. So that's kind of the main reason we're going with this high clock speed kit. Now for the case, this is kind of one of my favorites out here. So the Fantakes Eclipse P300A for $64, you're probably not going to find a better case out here on the market. It's got some great airflow, great build quality. It pretty much has everything anybody would want building in a PC for their first time. It looks great. The price point is amazing for a lot of people, and that's pretty much my recommendation for that price point. And then for the power supply, you're pretty much going to want to go with a 650 watt 80 plus bronze at the lowest end. I would pretty much recommend something a little bit higher because you really don't want to have to go and buy a new power supply pretty much ever. Getting a high-end, high efficiency, high wattage power supply is going to do you really good, because in the future you can bring that with you along to a bunch of different builds instead of having to spend that on something else. You pretty much can just save that power supply as you go on through the years. So honestly, I would probably get like a 750 watt 80 plus gold power supply if I were in the same position. But again, if it's you and it's something that you personally need, and you kind of have to stay within this price point, the 650 watt 80 plus bronze should be more than good for all of you guys. Alright, so now let's move on to the Ryzen 7 5700G system. So we kind of got some benchmarks here. So I don't necessarily know the overall settings here, but it looks like they're probably 1080p low settings. Is what I would assume here, and you're averaging around 100 FPS with the Ryzen 7 5700G. Let's see if we can kind of see over here. So we got GTA up here running. It looks like you're kind of on a mix of high normal. So okay, so it's a mix of high and normal settings. And over here on GTA, you're getting an average FPS of 72 FPS. Let's see if we can find another game. And we got ads coming up here in a second. Alright, so for this particular game, you're again playing on kind of a mix of high and low settings. And let's see what kind of FPS we get here. So it looks like it's playing it pretty well, actually. It's again at 1080p resolution, mix of medium. It's pretty much just medium settings, and you're still getting around that 42 FPS range, which is great for this particular system. So overall, I think the 5700G, great APU to go with. I think most people are going to be more happy with this over the 5600G, just because it's got a little bit better APU horsepower, or just sorry, GPU horsepower compared to the 5600G. Alright, so the first product that we kind of want to go to into the build, I definitely think you should probably go with some higher end cooling on this CPU, because one of the main things that I would probably do, especially if I bought one of these things, is I would want to overclock it. Again, especially if I'm spending $370 on this APU, I don't want to overclock it to try to get the absolute best performance I could possibly get out of it. I'd want to kind of overclock that APU just to see if I can squeeze a little bit more performance out of it. And I think that this Leon Lee Galahad should be more than fine to kind of keep this thing in really good temperatures, and while I can get some pretty stable overclocks with it. And then for the motherboard, we didn't want to go too premium with this. I didn't think anything super high end was going to be that useful. So I just picked an MSI B550A Pro. Honestly, the B550 series is pretty similar to the X570. As long as you pick the right board, they're pretty much interchangeable. But I think that this board is pretty similar in the way that this board is. It has pretty much all the same features that you would want. Again, it's got that 4 slots for your RAM sticks. It's got the USB front panel connector. What else do we have here? Do we have a USB? Okay, so we got a USB 3.0 item right here. Again, you got the metal plated PCIe cover to reduce some GPU sag once you do get a GPU for the system. Overall, I think the I/O kind of system looks nice. Again, you got the BIOS flash feature, which is really helpful. And pretty much everything else, I mean, you just kind of are lacking Wi-Fi, but I feel like a lot of people who are running with these higher end setups are going to have a LAN connection instead of having to run it over Wi-Fi. Now for memory, it's getting the same thing. Honestly, if you wanted to go up a little bit in speed, I wouldn't say that'd be a bad idea. If you want to go up to 4,000 megahertz, I honestly feel like that'd be an okay decision. It'd probably give you a good bit more performance out of the APU in this system, but it's just kind of at your own discretion. I think that at the bare minimum, you should just go for a 3600 megahertz kit. Again, make sure the cache latency right here, so CL16, make sure if you're at 3600 megahertz, you are at nothing higher than CL16. If it's CL18, you're not going to want it. You have to go with CL16 or lower if you are at this memory speed. And then for the storage, again, it's kind of whatever you, I don't really think we talked about storage a whole lot over here, but yeah, it's just a Western Digital 1 terabyte drive. Again, it's kind of what you want. If you need more storage than this, you can go at that. It's pretty optional. And then when it comes to the case, this is actually one of my favorite cases that got recently discounted. So it's only $80 for a Corsair 4000D. Overall, the build quality on this thing's really great. This is not the airflow version, so you're not going to get all that kind of pass-through holes here. But I think it's still pretty decent when it comes to overall airflow. And it comes with 2 stock fans, and you're also getting that AIO cooler. You're not really having a GPU to cool either, so I think thermals should be more than fine in this particular system. And when you get a GPU, I'm sure you can add some more fans into the system to kind of make it run a little bit cooler if you wanted it to, but again, it's not really necessary considering that you're just running the CPU right now. So again, you can kind of get to that crossroad when you get there. And then for the power supply, this is an 850 80 plus bronze. I think this should probably be a gold. I think I might have accidentally misclicked, but yeah, so this is an 850 watt PSU here. This is pretty much what I would want at this particular level, because I think most people who are going to be buying a system this expensive are probably going to be trying to go for something like a 3080 Ti or like a 3070 Ti, all of which require a good bit of power. So you want something that's pretty reliable and it's going to last you for a long time. And so I think these EVGA PSUs are absolutely amazing. Just make sure you get something with a pretty high efficiency. I think the bronze is a little bit low, especially at 850 watts. But overall, I think it's a fine PSU. So yeah, that about concludes the video. If you guys found this helpful, if you guys want to see all those links, I got the video links. I have all the links to all the parts in the description here. So if you guys want to go and check that out, make sure to go check out the description. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like on it. If you guys have any comments or questions, again, we've got a comment section down below. You guys can leave those in. And if you guys want to see more content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.